Most people dream of becoming millionaires, but few understand that the real challenge isn't reaching the first million. It's earning the first $100,000 because that is the hardest stage, the most demanding, the most solitary. It's where character is built. It's where you decide whether you'll remain someone who only wishes or someone who acts. This isn't a video full of empty promises. I want to talk about shortcuts or magical formulas. This is the real story of what it takes to go from zero, change your mindset, build solid habits, and break the financial cycle that traps millions of people. Get ready to dive into a story that might feel like your own, because the first step toward wealth is not making more. It's thinking differently. And today you'll understand why the first $100,000 isn't just a goal, it's a transformation. Chapter 1: The Man in the Mirror. Thomas was 29 years old. He lived in a modest, rented apartment on the outskirts of Houston, Texas. His life followed a predictable rhythm. He woke up at 6 a.m., took the same crowded bus, and spent 9 hours behind a desk at a logistics company working as an administrative assistant. His salary barely covered the essentials: rent, groceries, bills. By the 20th of each month, his bank account was empty. Not out of irresponsibility, but because it simply was never enough. But there was something different about Thomas, something burning quietly inside him. A question that wouldn't stop echoing in his mind: is this it? Is this what life is supposed to be? While others numbed their dissatisfaction with entertainment or excuses, Thomas was haunted by a single number: $1 million. It wasn't greed. It was a thirst for freedom. The ability to say no without fear, to live without counting every dollar, to help his parents without hesitation, to choose his time instead of selling it. But that number felt like a cruel joke, distant, unreachable, a dream reserved for the lucky or the brilliant. Until one night, everything changed. Chapter 2: The Sentence That Changed Everything. It was a rainy Thursday evening. Thomas had just eaten rice and egg for dinner when he collapsed onto his worn-out sofa and opened YouTube more out of habit than hope. He clicked on a random interview with Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner. The old man, calm and sharp as a blade, said the first $100,000 is the hardest. After that money starts working for you, Thomas straightened up on the couch. He replayed that sentence 3 times for the first time. The mountain didn't seem unreachable. It had a hidden base camp. Brutal, yes. But once conquered, it would start helping him climb. The problem wasn't getting to $1 million. It was reaching the first 100,000. That same night, something changed. He didn't have a financial revelation. He didn't win the lottery. He simply decided to stop waiting. He opened an investment account with just $20. That was the true beginning, not when he had money, but when he made the decision to take control. Chapter 3: The Real Enemy: Procrastination. Thomas's journey didn't take off in a blaze of glory. It started slowly, painfully slowly. The biggest obstacle wasn't money. It wasn't knowledge, not even fear. It was procrastination. He kept telling himself, "I'll invest more when I earn more," or "Now's not the right time." Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, until one morning. He looked at himself in the bathroom mirror and asked, "Am I waiting for the fire to start before adding the wood?" The question cut deep because deep down he knew the answer. He was using his current situation as an excuse to avoid change. He realized that you don't wait to have more money to invest. You invest precisely to have more money. That month, he sold his old bike, canceled unnecessary subscriptions, and stopped ordering food delivery. He saved $300. It wasn't much, but it was momentum. Chapter 4: Walking in Solitude. As the months passed, Thomas's habits changed in ways. Few noticed, but he felt them deeply. He no longer sought weekends filled with noise and distractions. His Friday nights were now spent with books learning about money, mindset, and personal growth. He stopped buying clothes to impress people he didn't even like. He wasn't just cutting expenses. He was pruning his life of everything that didn't serve his future. And it hurt not because of the parties or shopping he missed, but because of his solitude. Friends who once filled his weekends began to see him as distant. They mocked his changes, sometimes laughing, planning to retire at 35. Others chuckled when he brought packed lunches to work or declined travel plans. But Thomas no longer made decisions to fit in. He made them to break free. He began journaling every Sunday morning, sitting on a park bench with nothing but coffee and silence. That solitude became his sanctuary there. Watching the world slowly wake up, he would whisper to himself, "They live for today. I'm building tomorrow." He understood something few ever do. The path to freedom is walked in silence, paved by choices no one claps for, and defended daily against the seduction of the comfort zone. Chapter 5. The magic begins compound interest. When Thomas's investment account reached $5,000, it generated about $500 in returns that year. That money wasn't just a number. It was proof. Proof that money, when treated wisely, could work harder than any job for the first time. He felt the magic of compound interest. Not as a theory, but as a real ally. Thomas began calculating even more obsessively. If $5,000 could earn $500, then $50,000 could earn $5,000 and $100,000. That was the tipping point. IT was no longer about saving to survive, but planting to multiply. When his portfolio reached $20,000, he saw $2,000 in gains. He didn't celebrate with a fancy dinner or a gift. He celebrated by buying another book and increasing his monthly contributions. He wrote in his notebook, "The beginning is hard because every dollar comes from my own effort. But once the machine is built, it works while I sleep." Thomas didn't want any rich to show off. You want to be free to choose in that year. He understood why most people never get rich, because they give up before the silent phase ends, the phase when nothing seems to be working. Thomas embraced that phase because that's where true wealth begins, not in the zeros on a screen, but in the patience to watch them grow. Chapter 6. The Power of Choice. When Thomas's net worth passed $30,000, a new opportunity arose, a startup. Risky and improving. Offered him a job with a lower base salary, but high commissions and the chance to build something from the ground up. His co-workers at the logistics company scoffed at the idea, too unstable. They said, "What if it fails?" But Thomas didn't hesitate. He had something they didn't: options, because he had savings, because he had a plan, because he had sacrificed months of comfort for years of advantage. He said yes. In the first few weeks, the pay was scarce. Thomas had to dip into his emergency fund twice. But in the 6th month, he closed a major deal that tripled his income overnight. It wasn't a miracle. It was the reward of risk aligned with preparation. He learned a new truth. Freedom isn't having everything. It's being able to say yes or no without fear. That ability was the greatest wealth of all, more than money, more than status, autonomy. That realization brought him a new kind of confidence, quiet, calm, and deeply rooted in the choices that now belonged to him. Chapter 7. When preparation meets opportunity. A year into his new job, Thomas was having lunch alone at a cafe when he ran into Alex, a college friend he hadn't seen in years. Over coffee, Alex shared a business idea, a local logistics startup with a tech focus. He had the plan, the skills, and a pilot client. What he didn't have was capital. Most people Alex approached turned him down quickly, too early, too risky, come back when it's validated. But Thomas saw something different, not just in the numbers, but in Alex's passion and clarity. And most importantly, Thomas had prepared for a moment like this. He had $5,000 set aside specifically for opportunities. Money reserved not for emergencies or savings, but for potential. He said yes. That project doubled his investment in 9 months, but the real gain wasn't financial. It was mental. Thomas learned that wealth flows to those who are ready. If he hadn't built that fund, he wouldn't have had the option he wrote in his journal. The world opens doors for those who are prepared. The others only see walls. That moment forever changed his view of money. It wasn't just protection, it was power. Chapter 8: The Millionaire Mindset. As his portfolio continued to grow, so did his clarity. Thomas no longer saw money as a goal, but as a tool, a servant, not a master, a reflection of values, not vanity. Whenever he felt the urge to buy something on impulse, he would ask himself, am I trading this for 10 times its value in the future? Little by little, his instincts changed. Spending started to feel heavy, investing light. Thomas began to see dollars not as currency, but as seeds. Each one had potential. Each one, if planted wisely, could grow into a fruit-bearing tree. He never judged others' decisions, but he became fiercely protective of his own. He wasn't stingy, he was strategic. He realized that many people ruin themselves, trying to look rich, while those who are truly wealthy often look ordinary. But think like architects. Thomas stopped following trends and started following principles. He no longer searched for motivation. He built identity. He didn't ask himself, what do I feel like doing today? But instead, what would the wealthy and disciplined version of me do right now? And then he acted accordingly. That mindset didn't just increase his net worth. It shaped his character. Chapter 9: Building the System. Thomas knew that discipline is fragile when it depends on emotion, so he removed emotion from the equation by building systems. Every dollar that came in was divided before it even reached his hands. A fixed percentage went to investments, another to his emergency fund, and another to an opportunity fund. He created a rule. No large purchase could be made without waiting 72 hours if the desire to survive the wait. He would evaluate its long-term value. Most of the time, the desire passed every Friday without fail. Thomas dedicated 30 minutes to reviewing his finances, not just to track, but to reflect what went well. What can I improve? What did I learn? Once a quarter, he wrote a letter to his future self, visualizing where he wanted to be in 1, 5, and 10 years. These letters became his compass, reminding him that progress is never accidental. He also made learning a non-negotiable habit. 1 book per month, 1 podcast per week, 1 new financial concept applied each quarter. These weren't chores, they were rituals. It gave structure to his mission and support to his growth. And little by little, the man who once felt trapped in a cycle became a builder of systems. Systems that in the process rebuilt him. Chapter 10: The Silent Victory. It was a cold winter morning. The sky was still dark as Thomas sat on the porch with a steaming cup of coffee. The birds hadn't started singing yet. The world felt paused. He opened his finance app. The numbers lit up on the screen. $100, 117. No fireworks, no applause, just silence. But inside him there was a celebration greater than any party. That number wasn't just money. It was a monument, a symbol of lonely nights, invisible sacrifices, books read in silence, dinner skipped temptations, resisted decisions made when no one was watching. It was proof that he had become the kind of person who doesn't need permission to build wealth. The first $100,000 was never about the money, but about becoming someone capable of earning it, and that person had changed. Thomas didn't feel rich. He felt capable, and that was a real reward.